The Southern Poverty Law Center has made public excerpts of emails sent by White House senior advisor Stephen Miller, who's a key figure shaping immigration policy for President Trump. The email messages from 2015 and 2016 show Miller's support of white nationalist websites and ideologies. Reporter Jean Guerrero with the San Diego public media station KPBS is writing a book on Stephen Miller, and she joins me now to talk about what these emails say and the light they appear to shed on his thinking as he exerts influence on the president's approach to immigration. Jean Guerrero, welcome back to the NewsHour. So tell us, first of all, these emails were an exchange between Stephen Miller and whom?
They were exchanges between Stephen Miller and Breitbart. There's about 900 of the emails, and they were sent when he was working for Alabama Senator Jeff Sessions and while he was on the Trump campaign. And essentially what happened is there was a Breitbart editor named Katie McHugh who was fired in 2017. She since renounced the far-right movement, and she decided that she was going to take these emails and share them with the Southern Poverty Law Center to expose the white nationalism that she says is affecting or influencing the Trump administration in its formation of immigration policies.
And just for those who might not know, Breitbart is a far-right news website, and that's where she worked until she was fired, we understand, a couple of years ago. So tell us what's the content of these emails. They were exchanging their thoughts, their ideas on what Breitbart should be covering. I know that's part of it.
Exactly. So McHugh had been introduced to Miller as somebody who was going to be influencing the direction of her reporting and the reporting of other editors at Breitbart. So he was providing materials often from white supremacist websites, white nationalist literature, and encouraging them to draw from it in their coverage, in their stories. What I found to be the most telling from reviewing some of these emails is that at one point Stephen Miller recommends that they do a story about this book called Camp of the Saints. It's an incredibly racist book that depicts the end of the white world. That's how they put it, the quote, end of the white world, as a result of an invasion of refugees. And it's filled with extremely degrading descriptions of migrants. And just to give an example of the kind of rhetoric, it includes this quote, all the kinky-haired, swarthy-skinned, long-despised phantoms, all the teeming ants toiling for the white man's comfort. So just these descriptions of migrants that are very degrading fill the book. And what happened was Julia Hahn, he encouraged Breitbart editors to do a story showing parallels between the book and real life. So Julia Hahn, who was an editor there as well, and who is now a special assistant to the president, did a story saying that the book was prophetic and that it showed what was going to happen at the border, what was happening at the border, and that potentially immigration was going to lead to the doom of society. After that, Steve Bannon, who was then a Breitbart executive and who worked for Trump as chief strategist after that, he also started referencing the book repeatedly after Stephen Miller recommended it to Breitbart. And he said that it described the, quote, invasion at the border, that basically the book had been prophetic and that what the doom described in the book was going to be happening now in the United States.
So the White House, and I want to ask you about the effect this has had on immigration policy, but the White House is saying, but wait a minute, this comes from the Southern Poverty Law Center, which they say is a left-leaning organization that they know already opposes them. And so they're basically saying this material is suspect.
Exactly. They have not explicitly denied the content of the emails, but they have said that the Southern Poverty Law Center is they've called it a left-wing smear organization. What the center is and has been doing for several years is exposing hate groups and trying to shed light on white supremacist and white nationalist groups. But yes, the White House is essentially saying that the organization is a smear organization and that their reporting and their analysis is not to be taken seriously.
Jean Guerrero, as we said, you're writing a book on Stephen Miller. How does what you see in these email exchanges, how does that connect to what the administration's policies have been toward immigrants, toward refugees, and any of the policies Stephen Miller's had a hand in?
Well, what these emails show is some of the white nationalism that's informing the formation of these policies. What's interesting is, so Stephen Miller is the architect of the Trump administration's border and immigration policies. And President Trump has repeatedly said that he's focused on cutting off illegal immigration, that he wants to go after criminals, after drug traffickers, after rapists. But what we've actually seen over the course of over the course of his presidency is that they've limited legal immigration. They've gone after refugees, they've gone after asylum seekers, largely from non-white countries. And so what the emails show and indicate is some of the white nationalist ideologies that may have gone into informing the formation of those policies, which largely echo some of the groups that Stephen Miller was drawing from, that he was communicating with and sharing with Breitbart.
Well, Jean Guerrero doing a lot of reporting on this, and I know there, as you said, a lot of emails out there to examine. I know that people will want to look at the emails themselves. I know they're posted on the Southern Poverty Law Center site. Thank you very much. We appreciate it.
Thank you.